Okay, people are logged in if you guys want to welcome them.
Okay. Welcome everyone to our next Council on Sage Active Adult Design Trends and Master Plan Case Studies virtual program. I'm Marissa Feliciano of HPI Architecture, and I'm currently serving as the Sage Council Vice President this year, along with Balmaseda, our president. Before we kick things off, I'm going to just say a quick thank you to all of our annual sponsors. We're very grateful for everyone who makes keeps us going. High Ridge Costa, All Valley Washer Service, Rancho Mission Viejo, HPI Architecture, KTGY, and all of our wonderful bronze sponsors. And one more quick announcement. We missed our Sage Awards last year, and I know everyone loves that program, and we miss seeing all the great work from our members and the senior living industry. So this year we're back on October 21st. Pleased to announce that the recipient of our annual Sage Person of the Year is Bob May this year. So we'll be honoring him at the awards dinner. Please make sure to get your ticket. Our awards deadline has already passed, so hopefully you've submitted everything by yesterday, got your submittal in. Be sure to register for the Sage Awards. Now, as we get ready to kick things off, please make sure your mics are muted, and I will introduce our speakers, who you probably already know. Everyone knows Mollie Carmichael, principal of Zonda. She is our guru for consumer research all over the country. Mollie is most known for leading national research on community and product innovation with consumer insights. And Balmaseda, our design expert, he is the principal partner of ID Architecture and Planning based in Irvine. With 30 years of professional experience in residential architecture and urban design and planning, Ike is our guru in all aspects of land design process, from formulation of master plan concepts, detailed site development plans, and value-added land studies. So thank you both for joining us today. And with that, Mollie and Ike, please take it away.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the presentation up. So I'm just gonna do a quick little shift over here, and hopefully I can do this simply. So let's just do this. Okay. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. Hopefully you're seeing a screen right now. Is it just one screen right now, Ike?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we're gonna dive right in. Ike and I have some fun things to share with you, just looking at a national view and sort of what's going on nationally with product, what's going on with us here locally in Southern California, and things to think about. So how many are there? What are the big shifts out there? We're actually going to go through some of the top selling and top viewed master plans throughout the country. We're also going to talk about some of those trends as well. So again, thanks for the introduction to Ike and I. But we're going to talk first just a little bit about the big numbers. Okay, so if we look nationally and we look at where the growth has been for the last 10 years, you can actually see here in the 56 to 75 age groups, huge numbers. So 19 to 48% growth. And the reality is we didn't see a lot of growth from 2010 to 2020. That growth is just starting now because the average age for retirement is somewhere between 62 to 67. And we saw somewhat of a slowdown due to two reasons. One, as people lost equity from 2009 to around 2012 to 2015, they wanted to wait till equity was strong. And boy, is equity strong right now. So we're just starting to see some huge moves there. As we look to the growth actually from 2021 to 2026, well, we do see a little bit of a reduction in the 55 to 64. That's okay, because we have so much pent-up demand from the last 10 years. And then again, in that 65 to 74, we still have another 10% growth on top of the numbers we just saw. So the time really is now to really capture this. I project the next 5 years will be extremely strong for age targeted, age restricted, and just frankly, homeless for that next stage in their life. And we're not really calling it retirement today, because so many are retiring later in life. And we'll talk a little bit about that actually. But As we look at the number of shoppers out there, I've broken it into mature Gen X. They're the ones coming, they're not there yet. So plan for them in like 7 to 10 years. Young boomers today who are 56 to 65, and then mature boomers 66 to 75. We'll talk a little bit about how these segments are different. As many people think, and Ike and I had this conversation as we were planning for this, you know, I'm definitely not like my parents, and so I'm super cool. We're going to talk about just how different those generational segments are, and if they are different. But you'll see today for Southern California, it's a huge number. 19% are actually of young boomers out there shopping. Another 11% of mature boomers, and it really falls off after 75. So you can see those numbers drop to about 3%. When we look at population-wise, it's a little bit less population, so 15% for those young boomers in 2021, and it drops by 1% in 2026 for those young boomers, but still at 11% for mature boomers. You can see those numbers here, and then 12% for mature boomers. It just goes up a little bit. So again, really, really strong numbers. The reason we always see a higher percentage here in the shopping population is it does take them about 2 to 4 times as long to buy a home as your family buyer, because again, your biggest competition is the home that they're living in today. But this is really interesting. So we looked at United Van Lines in 2020, and we looked at the percentage of consumers that are looking to move, and they're moving out for retirement reasons. You can actually see California lights up the brightest, amongst the highest of all of those states. And it's about 30% or greater of those moving out are moving for retirement. And for those same retirees, where are they moving to? You can see they're leaving California. So Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, Kentucky, and Montana. And as all of you know, we are seeing a huge amount of migration also going to Idaho. But in relationship to that, we're not seeing bigger numbers there for California. And then certainly too for Denver, Nashville, Austin, those tend to be pretty big numbers as well. So the typicals are in red. The ones that are new, as we look to Montana and Kentucky and some of those areas, those are some of our newer areas. But the reality is we're kind of losing this battle. So we wanted to look at, you know, why are we losing to other states? How do we actually win? How do we start thinking about doing things different? And we're going to look at what's most important to them. And I think with that, we're going to start first. Ike's going to go through some of the cool trends that he's seeing out there. And from there, I'll talk through the differences between those generational groups, because if the young boomers really are a big group, what do we do for them? And are they really that different from their parents? And we'll talk about that. So with that, Ike, do you want to take over? Or do you want me to advance for you?
Sure. I'll take over. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. So the question is, what do they want? So let's see.
You now have control, Ike, so you can advance.
I need to take control now. Sorry.
So I just gave you the mouse.
Okay. I'm trying to get to the mouse.
Yes, you've got it. It says now you've got control, so you can see the mouse moving.
I'm not able to change the slide.
Click your right button, maybe.
See next. Okay. Well, previous. Okay. So let me start again. So, you know, the question is, what do they want? So from the macro scale down to the micro scale, on an architect's perspective, what they want is, seniors want to maintain, you know, a high quality of life. They want to stay connected to their friends and family. Most importantly, they want to stay ahead in financial means. So what are they willing to trade? So when you look on the left here where I have trades, you know, what I find that trades, you know, gated communities, you know, they're willing to, you know, trade with technology and get home security on their own, save some cost. One level for 2, 3 levels. It's an option now, as land gets crazier and cost, we got to go up to keep the square footage. They want to trade dining areas. The big island concept where everyone congregates around the kitchen. Now it's more of a small, intimate space. And that's what we're finding with small spaces. You have to be very creative in making them multi-use spaces. And lastly, the trade is the backyard. A lot of them are saying that, gosh, in master plans, we want to, with the COVID situation, we want to hit nature. We want to hit the trails. We want to live along with it, not against it. And then also on the top, amenities and home ideas, seniors redefine the word, I want to say mobility. And mobility, they want to move freely and easily towards their golden years. They want the ability to move in different levels in society and flexibility to work from home. And we'll touch upon some of the ideas of how we're creating spaces to be able to work from home. And then the wow factor. Everyone wants wow factor. Every time there's some new solution, some new idea, it's got to be a big wow. So we'll share some of that in the slideshow. And then community trends. Like I said before, employment hubs. A lot of people are still working. A lot of the boomers are still working. So it's either in master plan communities, we want something very close, walkable to it. We've got a lot of WeWork places all over. We've got coffee shops. There's a lot of commercial spaces that are transforming themselves to small office spaces to use. Healthy activities. It's a huge amenity for and trend for the boomers now, staying healthy, living longer. And then lastly, the social activities. I'll share with you some of the findings that I found nationwide, even locally, on some social activities that are trending. And then, most importantly here as architects, the unique density types. We are now achieving up to 20 units to the acre detached on some of these housing solutions. We want to rethink the small house, how it lives. That's always been a challenge for us, and it's getting even tighter. So that's something that we will be sharing with you as well. And then at the end, it's the value plus. So, in our own backyard, we have Mission Viejo. Mission Viejo company is doing a fabulous job with, call it a active adult community mixed in with market rate housing. Sendero, Essentia, if you haven't been, check it out. They've got a great social programming on these communities. The latest, I believe, is Rienda. I've read a little bit about that, and that's another unique social programming that's set for that community. Unique living. Obviously everyone wants unique living. So, we'll share some ideas of one-of-a-kind solutions. And then lastly, it's, making it worth a place to live in. So with all these ingredients, all these solutions, I think that, it may be worth, either aging in place or buying something new or rehabbing your own space and making it livable till your golden years. Let's see, next slide. So top amenity ideas, from velodromes to zoos. Let me go here. Residences, this is taking from, from East Coast to West Coast. These are communities where we've got velodromes. We've got gardens. You've heard a lot about gardens. We've got lagoons instead of big pools. We even have ambassadors, like in Cane Island, we've got a golden retriever that greets you entering into the community. We've got amenities for health on the right side here, where it's 1,000 steps up this hill. So a lot of variety of different amenities that, you really don't see, especially in California. But like I said, velodromes to lagoons to special ambassadors to incline to even a zoo, a petting zoo, so that when grandkids come, instead of going to a pocket park or a community park, there's a petting zoo. So home ideas and trends. Like I said, secured gated communities. We're finding out, what's in the news these days. It's a lot of people stealing packages in the front door. So as architects, how do you resolve that? Maybe we create delivery package rooms incorporated into the house design, hidden security cameras, not the ones that look like they're on the commercial building, but really integrated into the details of your home. As I mentioned, one level plans, or elevators as an option to the 2 and 3 story. 1 car versus 2 car garages, allow flexibility for extra square footage. Years ago, we were talking about converting garages to gyms. Well, I'm calling it gym to wall. With technology today, you could buy a tonal wall panel and really hang it anywhere in the house and exercise in the hallway. Aging in place, as I mentioned, creative multi-use spaces, open floor plans. That's the big thing. Why not in big homes we have open plans? Why not in small floor plans have open plans? I'm calling the garage now as an option a 1-car gazeta. Why not bring the casita back into the home? As you know, casitas used to be outside. It was a secondary a bedroom or a secondary guest house. Incorporate it back into the house. We're moving towards possibly 1-car garages. That 2nd-car garage could be your casita. It's a 200 square foot downstairs office or downstairs bedroom. And nooks. Find Zoom rooms. There's, everyone's on Zoom. There's areas in the house that you could create a Zoom room. And then lastly, technology to support the semi-retired worker. We always need that room, especially if you're working from home. Okay, let's see. And then nature, natural light into the home, access to the outdoors, as I mentioned, to trails. The next slide is about, let's see, I think I might have. New housing solutions, as I mentioned, 20 DUs to the acre. I call these infill scraps because, as you know, it's hard to find pieces of land that are purely square, rectangular. So I'm calling these scraps. You, as architects, you have to get really creative in how do you fill in these areas and allow housing and getting the density. Well, here's where you have elevator options because we're all going vertical. 2 and 3 story pop-ups, not necessarily stacked 3 stories. You could have pop-ups to break up the verticality of the architecture. These become man rooms or guest rooms or grandkids rooms at the top floor. And then 2-story small lot. We're doing small lot programs that, again, allow you to achieve the density, yet keep it a simple neighborhood. Oh, this was the wrong slide, but it's okay. So rethink the active adult small house living space. Create designs that reflect senior living lifestyles and need for the flexibility while maintaining the small house constraints. We need to be flexible. As I mentioned, package closets or simply purchase a bin that's out there. Interior courtyards to replace front porches. As I mentioned, bistro dinings are becoming a big thing instead of the big kitchen. Wider hallways, door openings, wall gyms, home security, garage gyms to the 1-car gazeta, Zoom rooms. So many of the younger boomers simply prefer a smaller home, seeking minimalist lifestyles. Many of our ideas and solutions have come from Japanese architects, such as Yoshiro Yamashita. Did a lot of research with the Japanese architects. As you know, the Japanese know how to create space out of small spaces and livable spaces. So when you look at a small house in 2D, it seems very small. But in terms of volume, you can design these homes higher and create more space by going vertical. We try as architects to make the home feel like it's extending upwards towards the sky. So it's almost like the sky is part of the house. So the use of large facade windows, illuminating small spaces, opening up spaces and narrow interiors, high ceilings are important. Make these narrow interiors feel larger and not cramped. So that in a snapshot are some of the ideas and solutions that we're thinking about and working on. So I'm going to turn it back to Mollie, and she'll continue.
Thanks, Ike. So we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to help to sort of support some of the great trends that Ike just touched on. And we're going to look at how cool we are today, and are we really cooler than our parents, and how does that relate? So what I did is I basically took trends from Gen X, mature Gen X, which is 46 to 55, young boomers, 56 to 65, and then of course our mature boomers. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of huge differences that we just have to think about as we're planning for these different groups, because they really are different, as you're going to see. So let's just start with employed as a simple one. First of all, mature Gen X is nowhere near ready for retirement. Only 5% are retired. Obviously, they're 46 to 55, and they're still very much in family mode. So focus on your young boomers, as we looked at the numbers, as we talked about that at the beginning. But even for those young boomers, only 30% are retired. But to some degree, COVID has allowed us to work almost anywhere. And we've really learned to have that mobile office today. And I think, I'm going to say this boldly and say, I think we trust the fact that people have learned to work well out of their homes, or in some cases, we're pulling people into the office for essential reasons, and certainly having that interaction is huge. But much like this Zoom call today, I don't think I've ever had more interaction with my clients ever face-to-face than I have in the last year. So 30% are retired. They can be mobile because of that mobile office. And mature boomers, it's extremely different at 70% retired. So for them, that, going into the office, a more traditional office, is certainly more important. The other big thing that you're going to really need to look at as you're planning 5 to 10 years ahead is mature Gen X is going to be extremely more ethnically diverse. If you look at just the migration shifts that happened in the 60s, I mean, a lot of that is part of it. But when we look at those shopping for a home, mature boomers are 85% Caucasian, young boomers are 74% Caucasian, and then it drops to 57%. So we're going to have a lot more diversity, a lot more cultural things to really, get excited about and plan for and do some different things there. The other thing that when we look at things like ambition and attitude, like what makes them whole, what's important to them. So for mature boomers, it's very much financial security and home ownership. For young boomers, they want to work as long as they can. They associate retiring really with their parents dying. I mean, I've heard that come up constantly. So that job success and being successful in their community is going to be important. Even when they transition out of work, they're going to look for some sort of community fulfillment. And for mature Gen X, it's work-life balance. It's having that time for family. Again, 3 very different groups. Even their signature product, when we look at mature boomers, that bigger garage for the car. For the young boomers, they'll have TVs in just about every room in the house, even the master bathroom. Mature Gen X, it's about the PC, and it's really being able to kind of work anywhere in the house, easy and flexible and functional. And then the other part for all 3 of them is, top motivation to buy. It is about home design and community design. In fact, for young boomers and mature Gen X, it's 2 times as important as community amenities, where for the mature boomer, the community amenities do rival home design. So some of those things are unique, which means that young boomer and that mature Gen X buyer is just looking to really entertain within the home first, and then kind of going out, just given their social circles and things like that. So again, young boomers are really your focus today. Mature Gen X is the future. And knowing there's so many more differences than that. Now we're going to look a little bit at some of the other things as it relates to kind of lifestyle and attitudinal things. When we look at those that want an age-restricted community, it is not uncommon that the percentage grows as you get older. So for mature boomers, 31% want age-restricted. For young boomers, it's 25%. For mature Gen X, it's 13%. I do suspect that restricted will come down for mature Gen X, even when they get to that 55 to 70 age group. And that's largely because it's ethnically diverse and culturally, it's sort of, they want to be able to accommodate their children living with them. Now, all three obviously can accommodate their parents because it's 55 plus, but just being able to include their kids if they need to, their adult children. Multi-generational households, as we look to those numbers, you'll actually see mature Gen X, again, 66% want that option to have multi-generational. Young boomers is somewhere in between at 57%, where you'll see mature boomers, it's about 51%. The other big one is again, sort of that association with retirement is a great achievement. Again, very important for the mature boomers, to have that retirement. Young boomers, it's less than half, and Gen X and those young boomers look pretty darn close to each other. The other big ones that I think are important to sort of point out as we looked at top community features, all three of them are looking for an attractive community. I mean, they want it to look great, and that does, have a big impact on how the home feels within that community. But as you see for young boomers and mature boomers, healthy living has a bigger focus than mature Gen X. And part of that is, I think, where they're at in their life stage too, right? So you can see some of those differences. But the last part of it too is just, how they actually spend their free time and their big obstacles. And I really want to underscore the obstacle, but first looking at free time, it's, they all three of them want time with family, whether their kids are living with them or not. It's huge. But the big difference is, as we look to involvement with family and outdoor fitness, the outdoor fitness becomes much bigger for mature Gen X and the young boomers. For the mature boomer, it's about community activities and making sure that they have a new social circle and some of those things. But I am seeing on amenities where that big club that everyone invests so much money, or so many developers invest in that. If in doubt, I would invest in a huge, fantastic outdoor fitness, indoor fitness over that big club. That fitness environment is becoming the club, and it's becoming kind of the social circle, and where they live and play and meet their friends. And we just have so much stacked on our card today to get done. And again, that fitness room is becoming a much bigger focus, I think, in the community. So be thinking about that as well. The last part of this too is for mature Gen X and the young boomers, affordability is a really big deal. So the young boomer has a lot of money that they've made in their life, but it is much more of the credit card generation over the mature boomers. Mature boomers are much more likely to save. They're much more frugal. They're prepared for retirement. Young boomers are a lot less prepared for retirement, despite the fact they've made a lot of money. But affordability is a really, really big deal. And you'll see that. And it's a big part of why we're losing a lot of our 55 plus to other markets. Last but not least, when we look to some of the in-home kinds of things, look at just how different some of these are stylistically. So when we look at the exterior, most of them still lean a little bit to traditional, but you'll actually start to see it flex a little bit to modern. And by the way, this is flipped. This actually should be mature Gen X. Sorry about that. And so these numbers are actually for mature boomers. So you'll actually see that the mature boomer is a little bit more traditional and Gen X is a little bit more modern. Same thing with your young boomer, but it's not radically different, right? So when we look at it, just kind of in a nutshell, it's about 50-50 want modern versus traditional for your young boomer. But the reality is about 90% of your competition is sitting there in that traditional world. As we look to the size of home, mature Gen X is still going big because they are accommodating more than just the two of them. Where we're looking at young boomers are looking at relatively small, 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, without a doubt is the key space. But when we look at bed count, you're starting to see with young boomers, because more of them are still working, they want 3 to 4 bedrooms, not 2 to 3, and they want a tech space. So in that 15 to 2,500 square feet, they want the same size home. But to Ike's point earlier, that, you know, that space to have not just an office, but maybe another niche, as so many refer to as Zoom rooms. So things like that, I think, are super important. And then as we look to the opportunity to take care of your parents, it is so expensive today to actually take care of our parents, and they're living longer, which is fantastic. But there is a financial thing there that you have to think about. So the ability and the need to accommodate parents for Gen X, it's almost half want the opportunity to support their parents in their home. For boomers, it's 1 in 3. And I will quote a builder, I won't mention the name, but they are actually adding a lot of multi-generational suites to their active adult plays. And it's about 20% of their homes are selling with that multi-generational suite. So whether it's accommodating friends that are visiting, parents that might be living with them, and that's quite a few actually, it's a pretty big deal. The other part I wanted to note is reverse mortgages. It's interesting how many people don't understand this opportunity, because it's not just for the home you own, it's also for the home you can purchase. So if I wanted to buy a home and have no mortgage payment and only invest 50% of what that home is worth, you could buy that with a reverse mortgage and still actually get paid to get that home. So that's a really big deal, and I think a really big opportunity. And then of course, we're all talking about the single family for rent space. So it's about anywhere from 13 to 15% that would consider that for rent opportunity. And then last but not least, the elevators that I talked about. If you were to give them a multi-level home in a great location, they would consider it. Almost half across the board in Southern California would consider it if you gave them the elevator. Now, will they pay $30,000 more for it? Just look at your land cost. This is really about how much you're paying per acre and how many more homes you can make on that acre. And it really translates to that same cost. It's just a little different way to look at it. So it is a much smaller number that said they'd pay $30,000 more for it. But I have seen communities that include it as a standard, not as an option. And the value of that home goes up 100,000 plus because of that option being included. So again, just some kind of tips and major differences that I saw across all of those generations. So this is sort of the discussion we talked about in reverse mortgages. I do think there's a better opportunity to be able to sell this as a tool to get the home they want, to live the life they want to, and frankly, not move to another state, because they really could stay here and really have a great life. So let's look at the People's Choice today. These are not my opinions. These are really the top homes that actually came up as we look to some of the top 10 sellers. And then we're also going to look at some of the top 10 most viewed as well. So when we look across the US, you can see a very common trend. They're mostly south. So they're in those warmer climates for sure. The other thing too is sometimes I'll hear a lot of groups say, the Del Webb is for my parents, but it's not for me. It's not the case. Over half the top selling communities, and top viewed, by the way, are Del Webb communities. And I suspect the demand for that's going to continue to be strong. And why? Because when we look at the trends, it's financial security. It's being able to afford a home. It's being able to get the lifestyle they want. And that is what the Del Webb model or the age restricted model does so well, is provides this dream lifestyle at an affordable price. And we'll look at some of those things here. So when we look at the #1 best-selling active adult master plan, it is the most affordable, greatest lifestyle across the US. You can buy homes here in the 3s to 4s. You have 37 golf courses. You have 3 main squares with beautiful lifestyle. You have music in these squares every single day at 3 p.m. You also have a place that feels like the ocean is sitting there, even though it's not. They have these beautiful lakes that make it feel like you're sitting in a coastal lifestyle. It really is a phenomenal lifestyle. When you look at the home itself, it's pretty vanilla, but I will tell you this, they set up their homes to where you literally can just show up with a suitcase. They will fully furnish it. They will fully set up the backyard, the inside of the home. And again, you can see, the character and the kind of lifestyle that you have here. I've never seen so many people smile all day long in my life as I did doing focus groups in this location. The second one is Del Webb, Sun City, Texas. Again, very affordable. It starts in the high 3s to the low millions, depending on where you're at on the golf course. But it's actually in Austin and Round Rock, which is a great location. There's lots of lake and water activities and trails. But again, huge focus on fitness, more attractive architecture, as you can see, but all kinds of amenities throughout this entire master plan. Number 3, another Del Webb community. It's Hill Country Retreat in San Antonio. Again, look at the affordability here, 200s to 500s. You can see the sizes tie right in with what we just talked about. Lots of open space, lots of trails, has a really nice feel sitting in and around this location. The architecture, very San Antonio. And you can see the master plan amenities are probably more about the location and the trails and some of that around it, in addition to the social infrastructure that they have in place in this location. We're going to jump to, I'm sorry, guys. So we're going to jump to number 6 here, and that's another Del Webb community. It's Rancho Mirage. Now, this one actually has obviously a fantastic address, but again, for Southern California to buy a home in the 4s and 9s today, that is a bullseye for Southern California. Because if you look at all of the coastal counties, where they would be cashing out is 900 to $1 million, $4 million, $5 million, taking half of that, putting it in the bank, and still getting an address like Rancho Mirage. They can still see all their kids and all of that. It's a beautifully modern facility, some really cool features inside and outside their rec amenity, and the architecture, pretty vanilla, but it's what you can make it. Again, I think if this community has any sort of room for growth, it'd be the architecture on the home, but the location, the address, the rec amenity is nice. Trilogy at Tahali, this one's actually been out there for quite some time. I'm sure many of you know this one. It opened in 2013. And, just a great Seattle execution in Tahali. Once a very distant location, now I think so many people know it and like it. It has a great sort of very authentic to Seattle. The recreational facility, I would say, is nice. I think it's almost a little too compact. They have an underground pool even in the building and some of that stuff. But the community itself, the entire community and the trail systems there, and it's hard to beat. And I do think that Trilogy is probably the best out there on plan design. They do such a good job with their spaces and making them flexible and functional with a smaller sized home that feels and lives bigger. Kissing Tree by Brookfield. If you're not familiar with this one's actually becoming more and more popular. It's at number 9. It is in Austin, another Texas location. So Texas appears to be winning big amongst some of our national active adult communities. But again, great price points, 4s to 8s. There's actually a lot of amenities in this community. It opened in 2016. The architecture is charming. This has very much almost like the Tahali feel to it, but great indoor outdoor spaces, the pools, the amenities, the social activity. It's fantastic. Last but not least, for top selling, number 10 is actually a Trilogy at Verde River. So Another excellent location on the golf course, Scottsdale, Arizona. You can actually see this one opened in 2015 and a higher price point, but it goes with the A location for this location. You can actually see some of the architecture and some of the amenities, but the indoor and outdoor lifestyle that they have in their plan designs here are actually pretty terrific. So now we're going to jump over to a few of the top viewed master plans. Again, I'm not going to do all 10 of them, but we'll give you some examples. So Sola Vita by Taylor Morrison. I mean, this probably comes up as number 3, number 5, number 9. They're doing something right here because it is coming up quite a bit. But look at the price points, hundreds to 600,000. It's in Kissimmee, Florida, which is a great location. And you can actually see the success there is actually very good. It does have a little bit of an older feel to it because it has been there for quite some time. But overall, great location, great amenities. I mean, look at the fitness room alone is huge. You've got water, of course, it's Florida. There's a lot of that. You've got a little retail center, golf club, things like that. But very, very much price driven for sure. Number 2 is Avalon Trails by Lennar. There's actually only 217 homes in this one. Mid 3s to 4s, again, water surrounding it, just an affordable lifestyle at 3 to 400,000 with a West Palm Beach address is pretty terrific. You can see some of the overall feel of the neighborhood architecture. Again, that's where it has room for improvement for sure. I do think you don't have to spend more to give more on the design side, but overall the lifestyle and the price part, it's hard to beat for this location. And look at all the emphasis once again on fitness. Number 3. So GL Homes, we don't really know GL Homes too well on the West Coast, but they are definitely a force to be reckoned with on the East Coast, particularly as it relates to active adult. This looks like a pretty ordinary land plan, but one of the things they have done very well is they do really great architecture that's affordable inside their homes. Now, you won't be completely wowed as I show you a picture of them, but they do a great job of not just more modern architecture, but it's the merchandising and the finishes and all of that that really strikes the chord, and it's super affordable. So this is 4s to 8s. This is actually in Tampa, but you can actually start to see it's just more of all the glass off the back, which you don't always get in Florida architecture. Even their amenities or just have a little bit more of a modern feel. Their interior architecture just has a little bit more of a modern feel. Number 10 is Ave Maria. This is a really interesting proposition. So what they did here is they sold different parcels of anywhere from 400 to 800 homes per parcel to like Lennar for their national play for active adult, or Del Webb that has their active adult play. Or in this particular case, the original developer, CC Homes, they could all kind of create their own place, and they're all very different, yet they're selling right next to each other and all enjoying this kind of central, what we would consider to be kind of a little retail hub. And then in the center of that hub is a big, beautiful Catholic church. And then they also have a huge university that I think is the best kept secret that they should really do a better job of marketing. But the church, whether you're Catholic or not, I think it just is a symbol of community values. So about half the community does have those strong religious values, and the other half just, it feels like a safe place because, you know, it's built around those strong values. But the education, the trail system, the unique amenities amongst all of these has made Ave Maria a pretty unique location. And noteworthy, I think, because of some of the things they've done. So you can actually see the town is here in the middle. You can see all the different things they have in here. This is a picture of the church, which is pretty extraordinary. I would say one of the negatives to having the church in the center is you kind of miss the green and the whole sort of presence of this retail space. Would have been nice if that was offset a little bit, but a really interesting community with a lot of amenities and a lot of bang for your buck. You can actually buy here in the 2s to 4s as well. And you can see from an architectural standpoint, pretty simple, but amenity rich. And it's again, it's all playing off of that financial security, with a great lifestyle. So other notable active adult master plans that didn't really hit the top viewed or top sold that I thought was worth sort of talking about. Once again, just playing off of, the communities that are really looking at not just the amenity piece, but also trying to do home design well and right. I think Ike and I both totally agree that you don't have to spend more to get more, but I'm going to go back to GL Homes. This is actually another GL community in Port St. Lucie. They are actually competing against two very big active adult competitors. They sold 600 homes in about 6 months. No amenities in place, just their model park. And it was really the presentation of their homes and what they were promising long-term that really helped them sell well. And once again, playing off that financial security at mid-2s to 400s. I do a lot of shops throughout the country. This is one of those communities that even I thought like, I should buy one here and just have that and have it as an investment. I've probably done that maybe 3 to 4 times in my entire lifetime. This was one of those. And again, the land plan looks pretty vanilla, but when you looked at the financial proposition, it, and what they were doing was great. So again, very simple on the outside, but when you walked in and how they presented the models, it's very clean and modern. And it has a very sort of anti-traditional look that you're seeing in all of your competitors. It was very, very compelling. And then what they were selling as far as their amenities go at the time, it was all virtual. So it was just kind of selling what the dream would be one day, close to the water and just a very affordable price points compared to some of its competitors. Sorry for the blur here, but one of the other things I think they did very well is I think it's so important to show how this home is going to live. So they furnished every room, they showed how it might live. Now, this is a great floor plan. If we all looked at this plan, we'd go, that's a cool plan too. But try to furnish the dining room and the living room. You've got hall space here, walkway space here, walkway space here. It becomes very difficult to furnish that space. And instead, they've shown you how great these homes are going to live. And that's such a huge part, I think, of what GL does. They not only physically show you a better presentation, they show you how it can live. They show you virtuals if they don't have that model. And in every case, you get it instantly and it feels fantastic. Another, I wanted to point out what Toll Brothers is doing with their Regency. And it's not just here at the Palisades. You can see it in Las Vegas. You can see it in many locations throughout the country. They're just taking a little bit more of a modern flair to it, and they're achieving it at a more affordable price point. So we all know that Toll tends to play in the higher price points, and they do tend to still get another 5% in options from that active adult buyer because they will spend more on their options. But even for this very traditional look, they have just some modern pieces that go into even their rec amenities, their architecture. They just do it a little bit better, and it has a little bit of kind of modern veins in it that actually feels really nice. Birchwood at Brambleton. This is probably the most vertical active adult community that I know of that isn't in an A or B location. It is right out of, it still is in a great location, but it's pretty vertical for its position in this market. But one of the things that they've done is not only do they have their town center that's in place, and that's been in place, that they sold conventional product kind of around it. But again, everybody in sort of the Loudoun County area is largely living in townhomes for the most part. I mean, that's a very typical, home, as it would be detached, smaller lot here for sure. And they just kind of took off on that and really went a lot more vertical, even for their active adult. So again, playing off of the retail center that is now in place, they definitely subsidize the retail to make that kind of the there, and that is somewhat their amenity, but they also do a rec amenity as well. But one of the things I think the East Coast does a lot better than the West Coast is just attached. So this is 4-story flats. Look how big they are. 1625 to 2153, all stick construction, no podium. On the backs of those, they have mostly 1-car garages. They'll also get parking spaces with that. Some will actually get 2-car garages, obviously, as you get to the bigger spaces. You also have townhomes that are roughly about 24 feet wide, some to 28, that all have master downs. But again, look how much bigger those are but they get these great price points that go with it. And then of course they have alley loaded. Alley loaded always sells better to the active adult buyer because it's really no maintenance patio living. And then they have traditional detached, but it is a cluster. So it's 4-pack on a cluster. This is the home on the front of that cluster. And this is the home on the back of that cluster. And really, really well done. Miller and Smith is a great builder if you haven't seen him. Last but not least, as we're wrapping up, I do think that water is replacing golf, even though golf has had a great comeback with COVID. But water has definitely become the new golf, and certainly Crystal Lagoons are a big part of that. And look at the price points. I mean, this is near Tampa in the mid 200s with a Crystal Lagoon. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. And I definitely wanted to point out Altice and Beaumont. They're taking off on the whole kind of modern is winning look and feel. They did a great job of it, selling in the mid 300s, and it is selling fantastic. And then last but not least, we talked about just the district concept. So this is West Villages on the right. You've got Ave Maria on the left, with large parcels of land, and not so many people are worried about, or developers are worried about, how do I actually phase the development of all these amenities, like a big 4,000 unit Del Webb. Well, in this case, they basically had 4 different developers come in. They all built their own amenity, and they all have 4 different very unique districts kind of playing off and with each other. Huge absorptions very quickly in an area you would have never guessed they would have got huge absorptions. And in both cases, they did very well. So as we sort of conclude, you know, how do we win some of these people back? I think it's lifestyle. I think it's better architecture. But I think most importantly, it's trying to continue to do more of those affordable solutions so we don't lose them too. As you can see, the more affordable estates kind of sitting in and around us. That's really, I think, a big part of why we're losing. So with that, I'm going to conclude. Any questions? We're wrapping up right on time. I think we've got about 5 minutes for questions if anyone has questions.
And if we do run out of time, please feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Yes. I'll turn it back to you, Ike, if you want to. Or
And I have a big question. I know that there's been a wave of people leaving California, heading towards Florida, Texas. You know, you've shown a few you know, areas up in Montana or Wyoming as another hot spot. You know, everyone tends to hit the Sunbelt states. So as land becomes tighter and scarce, I guess in the Sunbelt states, are there looking at master plan communities as such as active adult in the cold area states?
There definitely are active adult communities like in the Midwest as an example. They're just, the demand is a lot lower.
Yeah.
General rule of thumb, the bigger challenge I think for the Midwest and even Texas as an example is they don't have to move. It's affordable already, right? And so that's a part of it. But the other part of it too is, you know, usually when you go to an active adult community, it's because you have to move and you're cashing out financial security, right? So I'm moving to another location because I need to get half that equity out so I can, you know, live another 30, 40 years or whatever. So that's a big part of what's driving it. But yeah, if you're going to stay within that area, it's really more age targeted, and it usually happens within the 45-minute ring that you live in already, and you're not going to replace all that social infrastructure and things like that an active adult community does so well. But it is interesting to see some of the growth. There is a little bit of a spurt up in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming right now, which is so interesting to me. But I think that's about space and nature and all that stuff. Wait till January, they might be running back to California. It's going to be awfully cold.
You know, it would be an interesting webinar next time is to, you know, because the audience here in our webinar is mostly here in Southern California, is to look at what we're doing just in our own backyard. Just because when we talk about verticality, things going up, I mean, we really need to look at that. And if you look at what AO has done off the freeway of Santa Ana, looking at the rental market versus the for sale on high density, I mean, it would be interesting to just showcase and share some of your thoughts on the marketing aspects and my thoughts, along with other architects, their thoughts of how to resolve some of these small, tight space solutions that we're always challenged with. So.
I totally agree. I mean, I would say for me personally, and I think about this a lot as I'm out there looking at other projects, I'd always take smaller space and live in a great location with the people I love and great weather than getting the big house on the hill. It's never been my desire to have the big house on the hill. So I just think at the end of the day, that's the part that you have to look at is can I make 1,000 square feet work, or even 750 square feet work, but live in, a beautiful location with all the people I care about? Or do I move for that 3,000 square foot home because I want 3,000 square feet with no kids at home? And I mean, why? I don't get it. So it's an interesting proposition.
Yeah. So Molly, I was with the grandkids a couple weeks ago, and I was playing with my grandson, and the Transformer toys.
Yeah.
So it dawned on me that, wow, what if we started using Transformer furniture? So I went ahead and met up with a good friend of mine in Santa Ana that builds furnitures. And I tell you, not only are the spaces small, but, we have to really think about furniture as well. How can you multi-use furniture? And if you go on social media, it shows it. You could go from a couch to a bed, a coffee table to a dining set. I mean, these Transformer furniture, call it Transformer rooms. I think it all goes hand in hand. And I think that there's another evolution of how to solve small spaces, how to live in small spaces.
It's so funny you should say it. But I studied the heck out of that. And not only that though, but and once again, the Japanese have done this better than us. Literally where the kitchen table actually drops into the ground and becomes part of the flooring. And that becomes a bigger entertainment space. There are certainly things that we all know the Murphy bed and things like that, but it is really interesting to start to see some of that transformation. I can't tell you why that hasn't taken off more, but I think it's a part of necessity, right? So in Japan and China, where you have so many people stacked on top of each other and the population density is so critical, I think it's just like walking versus driving your car in California versus New York. When you're downtown New York, it's walkable, not just because you want to walk everywhere. It's walkable because it costs you $150 to park it. And if you did get in a car, you'd probably go slower than if you walked. I mean, there's a lot of things that drive, those great things that happen.
So in closing, I'd like to just say in Japan, there's a saying, and it goes like this: tate hanjo nete ichicho. And that means that you don't need more than half a tatami mat to stand and a full mat to sleep. So this is an idea.
Awesome.
This is an idea that comes from Zen. And it's a belief that we don't need more than the fundamentals. So, food for thought. So
that's a great way to close. I love that. Now I just have to learn how to pronounce that. So we'll talk later on pronunciation.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.